Kayvon Tehranian from Foundation is going to be giving us an overview, as I mentioned, of the creator economy. Foundation, for those who might not know, is a platform to discover and invest in digital artwork. It's a creative playground for artists, curators, and collectors to experience the new creative economy. So I will hand it over to you, Kayvon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ariana, for having me. This is Foundation. We are building the new creative economy. And how are we doing that? We are allowing artists to encode their digital artwork scarcely in the blockchain. And we are pioneering a new form of patronage that's global, fluid, and native to the internet. And just to ground you in our traction, in the past 3 months alone, we've seen $250 million in bids placed on the platform and over $60 million in sales for artists. And in fact, 480 artists have already earned over 5 ETH, which into dollars terms is about over $15,000 on the platform. And so what does the product look like? This is the product. It's visual, it's elegant, it's clean, but it also is a decentralized crypto native platform. And what do I mean by that? Every interaction with this platform requires the use of cryptocurrency, the use of a non-custodial wallet, meaning a wallet that the user and the user alone or the artist is in charge of. And every artwork and every file that's uploaded by an artist or a creator is uploaded to a decentralized storage network, which means that the content in this network is not locked onto Foundation. It is actually able to traverse what we call the metaverse, really, which is an open space that's not mediated by platforms. It's available and decentralized to the user base. And so the product is straightforward in the sense that the interactions do make sense to a large number of people. You are participating in auctions, you're buying artwork. These are behaviors that have existed for hundreds and hundreds of years, but we are now able to perform these actions on the internet natively in a fluid global context. So in this case, you're seeing a piece from Jimmy Edgar, auctioned on the platform, bids are being placed in Ethereum. The auction is happening globally. You have bidders from London to the Middle East participating in the auction. And every single interaction is public, transparent, and viewable on the blockchain. But to tell this story more clearly, I would prefer to actually tell it from the lens of the creators themselves. So in this case, you're seeing, these are all artworks that are live on Foundation. I'll point out a few folks here. You have the emoji portraits from Young Jake. You have the artwork from Jimmy Edgar that you just saw. You have pieces from David Rudnick, Raphael Rosendahl, Andrew Benson, Rachel Ross, and Ellie Pritz. These are all established digital artists that are now using Foundation to sell their work in a natively digital format. And I'm going to walk you through a variety of auctions that tell their stories. The first story I'd love to tell is the story of Nion Cat. I would hope that many of you recognize this image immediately. I would argue it's probably more recognizable than the Mona Lisa, but for the entirety of its life, it has never been able to be sold by the actual creator, Chris Torres. On the 10th anniversary of this meme being released on the internet, Chris remastered the file, uploaded it to Foundation, and minted it as an NFT. He then auctioned it with no expectation as to what the price of it would be. Ultimately, through the course of the auction, the piece went for 300 Ethereum. In today's terms, that would be almost $1 million, if not more than $1 million. This is a creator that has never been able to monetize their work because it is digital. This is a person that had to, participate in merchandising or partnerships or a whole host of other kind of monetization paths, instead of the actual work being recognized as an art piece and being able to be sold on the internet and being able to be owned by somebody. And it turns out people consider this meme incredibly valuable, and he's spurred a whole meme economy that exists on Foundation. You've probably heard of other auctions that have gone for high profile prices as well. And that's kind of memes on Foundation. This is the story of an Ethiopian artist collective. They actually arrived on the platform this weekend, and I really felt compelled to include them in this presentation because I think the story is so compelling. This is a group of people that are in a country where you can imagine the restrictions on currency and the access to global markets. Gallery representation is probably quite limited. And they were able to mint works, gorgeous works, by the way, on Foundation and sell to a global audience. They minted 6 pieces with us this weekend. They were able to sell it for a total of 40 Ethereum, which is actually totaling over $50,000. These auctions took place globally with collectors all over the world participating, and the currency ultimately seamlessly delivered to these artists in Ethiopia through the blockchain without any obstacle around customs, foreign exchange, wire transfers that would have perhaps made this interaction impossible without blockchains, without Foundation. Raphael Rosendahl, a very, very established net artist. And by net artist, I mean an artist who has used the internet as his medium. For decades, Raphael Rosendahl has been creating websites that he considered artworks and then using the gallery system that we all know in the analog world as the means in which to sell his artwork. He has been able to embrace NFTs and sell his artwork now natively in its digital native context, and collectors have responded enormously, far more than they ever were able to in the old gallery model. Raphael Rosendahl, in his 2-month career so far in Foundation, has made over $1.3 million selling 5 NFTs. His market is well established. He has been an active net artist for decades. Only now is there a medium authentic to his practice that's able to allow collectors to truly engage with his work. And he is pioneering a completely new model of existence for artists. Musicians have arrived on Foundation. Aphex Twin, a very, very avant-garde, prominent musician, often leading new forms of creative expression. He was able to sell an NFT with his longtime collaborator, Weirdcore, also on the platform selling digital art. This is particularly poignant in a year in which artists, specifically musicians, have been very, very challenged without having touring, merchandising, the variety of revenue streams that musicians are accustomed to. NFTs are offering an entirely new digitally native revenue stream that allowed artists such as Aphex Twin to thrive during this period. Photography is another category that's taking off. Photographers have been sharing their photos on Instagram to enormous viral success. I'd love to call out Ruben Wu here, a photographer I think that really captures the digital medium well, combining both stunning photography with digital effects. He's been able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars selling his photography on Foundation. And it should be noted that instead of this content being trapped behind a platform's rules, these pieces live on and are encoded into the blockchain and are accessible to anyone. And then lastly, I want to tell the story of our most high-profile auction to date. Edward Snowden joined the platform and minted an artwork. The artwork includes the court ruling that ruled that the NSA's surveillance program was in fact illegal, and his photo is imprinted or silhouetted from a famous photographer, Platon. This piece sold for 2,224 Ethereum. In today's prices, that's $7.5 million. At the time of the auction, that was $5.5 million. I do believe that the Freedom of the Press Foundation, which is now custodying these assets, holds on to cryptocurrency. So I do imagine that they are now actually holding on to almost $7 million worth of cryptocurrency. And this auction is really, really powerful because it actually speaks to the emergent trends in the space. There was a bidding war that took place, and it took place between 2 actors with very different properties. One was an individual, very, very active in the collecting community and really wanted to own this piece. The other was a Twitter organization, what we would call a DAO in kind of the more crypto native landscape. And they actually corralled resources during the course of the auction using smart contracts to pool those resources together and place bids on Foundation. And it turns out the collective was more capable than the individual and raising their bids and won the auction. And I think that speaks to a trend that we'll see where people come together and collectively pool resources together, use smart contracts to govern their collective resources and make investments that no individual could. And that really ends the presentation. I really want to leave the audience with the prompt to imagine this future. I think as every panelist will and guest today will speak to, we are at the beginning of this journey, not the end. And this will really, I believe, impact every creative field that operates on the internet, whether or not that's a streetwear company sharing their designs, an artist uploading their work, brands creating new experiences for their fans. There really is no limit at the moment to the creativity and ingenuity that is possible in this new creative economy. And a lot of this is happening on Foundation. And I encourage you to visit and experience it at foundation.app. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Awesome, Kayvon, thank you so much. It's fantastic to get a sense of the incredible creativity and range of things that people are putting on Foundation. So super exciting. We have tons of questions from the audience. Let's see.
And I'm happy to answer.
Perfect. All right, the first one is, are creators interested in tracking the provenance of their pieces? What does that unlock for them?
So whether or not they're interested is maybe not the way I'd frame it, because they will become interested inevitably. The interesting thing about Foundation and these crypto native experiences is every interaction on the platform is encoded on the blockchain. And why does this make provenance so powerful? Well, provenance is one of the most important aspects of what powers the existing art market that we have. And the provenance abilities are very limited because it's hard to keep track of everything. Blockchains make that digital, programmable, scalable. And so even something as simple as a bid in an auction where you lose the bid is relevant information, because that really communicates to the community that at this point in time, this user was willing to pay this much money for the piece. And what that's going to allow artists to do is develop incredibly strong markets around their work that have clarity and transparency and provability. And so when you say, how much is the Snowden piece worth? Well, we have a record of multiple participants placing money in a smart contract that prove that at that time, it was worth $5 million. And that is actually anyone in the world can verify that. You do not have to ask me for permission or ask my take on it. That information is not proprietary in any way. It is entirely public.
Right.
And I think this is
online.
It's on chain, on the blockchain. Anyone can verify that.
Yep.
And a lot of people's complaints about the existing art market is how opaque it is, how much smoke and mirrors there are. This new art market and this new creative economy has transparency front and center. And that, I think, will actually explode the potential and possibilities, because artists are empowered now to actually understand what's happening financially around their work.
Right, that makes sense. A sort of slightly on a different angle of questioning, more looking at the collector side.
Yes.
Have NFTs changed their base of collectors? So meaning there's this idea circulating that influencers would make the best investors in other influencers, almost like a peer review that could lend authority to cultural tastemaking. Have NFTs made it possible for creators to become collectors or crypto investors?
The answer is unequivocally yes. So on Foundation, without a doubt, you are watching creators able to make sizable sales, and you are watching the likes of Raphael Rosendahl, who is one of the most successful artists on Foundation, immediately funnel his resources and his reputation into smaller artists who he believes are the next Raphael Rosendahl. And not only is he doing that kind of out of his own taste and financial benefit. He's doing it to create this new creative economy. We do think this is a key pillar of it. And you're watching auctions where artists participate skyrocket in value because other collectors are able to watch and verify on chain that artists are viewing this artist as a up and coming artist. And that is creating signal in the marketplace. It's creating new dynamics. It's creating new power structures. And artists are at the forefront of it. And we actually could not be more excited about that trend.
It's very meta, but also very cool that, you know, the artists themselves can define what, you know, what becomes in vogue.
And I think that it just shows to you the revolution that's happening here, which is that we are flipping power structures on their head. And that is why this is seemingly so topsy-turvy, because artists have not had these abilities in the prior markets and structures we've had. And they are now fully empowered to do this, and they are running with that power.
That's awesome. I think that's kind of one of the most exciting revolutions in art that we've seen in maybe centuries since the Renaissance.
People have cited that period of time many times, and it's going to be very fun in the coming decades to reflect back on this time as to whether or not it was that impactful. I will go on the record in saying that I think it will be a similar era in terms of its impact, given what we've seen in only just 3 months on Foundation.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. How do we ensure an artist is the legitimate owner of the original artwork being minted? For the Nion Cat, for example, what if someone other than Chris had uploaded the art and sold its NFT? How is the provenance checked?
So on Foundation, we have a number of checks. There's not just one. I think that it is true that anyone at any point could upload any artwork and mint it, but that it is not so simple as provenance accumulates. So on Foundation, we require social verification. So we actually require you to attach both your Twitter and Instagram to prove your identity. And we also ask that you come and be invited by another artist on the platform. All of those create really kind of, like, I would say, not like off-chain provenance, but in reality, we're in this very pivotal moment where we're moving to blockchain provenance. And for example, it will be very difficult now to actually spoof the Nion Cat piece, because every interaction around the Nion Cat auction went on chain. And so you would need to recreate the entire provenance of that auction. And in reality, people also know when that happened. It already happened. So if you were to mint today, you would be minting something in the future, right? That doesn't map to when that auction took place. And you wouldn't have the same address as Chris. And people now know his address and know when pieces come from his address. And moreover, you would have to recreate an auction that went for $1 million with participants all over the world. And as artists, and moreover, Chris has released 6 more pieces with us. And so as you accumulate more and more history on the blockchain, it becomes more and more difficult. And so right now, yes, there are moments where fraudulent work makes its way onto the blockchain, but it doesn't accumulate provenance. It's very quickly either shut down or identified as fraudulent, and no one interacts with it. Whereas if you look at Nion Cat, it is now a gold standard NFT that has lots of provenance on chain that is immutable attached to it.
Thanks. I think that's super helpful for the audience. And sort of a derivative question that came in our last minute is, if a consumer purchases on Foundation, can they sell on other sites like OpenSea and still track provenance easily?
Yes. I mean, it really, I cannot speak to what would happen on another platform, but NFTs on Foundation are uploaded to IPFS, they're uploaded to the Ethereum blockchain. These are publicly available resources. Anyone in the world will have access to those. People are using their own non-custodial wallets to move these assets and funds around. And so yes, users are empowered, artists are empowered to use whatever platform they wish. I cannot speak to the practices of another platform, but if you brought the NFT to that platform, it would conform so long as they conform to the same standard, which is the ERC 721 standard. And also we really do our best to also work with every other platform to ensure royalties go back to that original creator. because I believe that is the most important element of this new economy.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kayvon. That was great, and also a really good precursor to our conversation with People Pleaser a little bit later. So thank you again.
I'm very excited to learn more about that.
Very
Thank you, Ariana.
excited. Yes, yes.